Hi, my name is Ian Woods, and I'm here with my co-anchor, Sola out of BC. You're watching The Daily Wagon. Today we will be covering the three major battles of the American Revolution.
Ian, what battles do you think were the most significant?
Well, I would have to say the Battle of Saratoga, the Battle of Yorktown, and the Battle of Cowpens.
The Battle of Saratoga showed the French that the colonists had enough willpower to fight the British, and the French supported them in the war. The Battle of Cowpens stopped Britain's momentum at the end of the war. And the Battle of Yorktown was the last battle of the Revolution and gave the colonists their victory.
I couldn't agree more. Now here's Chandler with interviews about what led to the Americans to defeat the strongest superpower in Europe.
Thank you, Ian. We will now be going to interview a British soldier.
Hey, mister. I have a question. Let's sit down. Which battle do you think most likely resulted in Britain's defeat? Yorktown, Saratoga, or Cowpens?
Without a doubt, I would say Saratoga. I was fighting in Saratoga and we barely won the battle. But little did we know that you guys would come charging back at us 10 days later and wipe us all out. I was lucky enough to survive, but that loss made the French join up with the colonists. And at that point, I knew we were going to have a hard time winning this one.
Thank you so much for your response. It was very insightful. However, personally, I believe that Yorktown was the most influential. Now, I had never done any fighting in the war, but I had always thought that Yorktown was the most significant because it finally got y'all to surrender.
True, but there were many tragic events that had led us to that point.
Thank you for your time. Next up, we will be talking to a former American loyalist about how it all started. Sir, you have already told us that you were a loyalist to the king, but did the results of the revolution have an effect on your outlook of King George III and England as a whole?
My family had initially moved to the Americas with the hopes of starting fresh and having an opportunity to make money. My brothers and I have always been raised thinking that the King George III was a very kind man. He ruled with the benefit of everyone in mind.
What led you to change your mindset about him?
Well, once the revolution began, I was still very young. I saw many of my neighbors go and fight. However, my family believed that rebelling against the place we used to call home was a horrible idea. As time progressed and many people we knew started to die in the fight, my family finally decided to join in.
Did the revolution have any personal effects in your life?
Yes, sadly my oldest brother died in one of the battles, in the Battle of Saratoga. This led my family and I to fully believe that the revolution was necessary.
Thank you so much for your time, and we'll be back with more interviews after the commercial break.
Wow, look at this rare coin. It was one of the few that had been discovered and preserved during the times of the American Revolution. It appears to have ties back to one of the middle colonies and was most likely used for bartering. You can buy this coin right now for only $5.99. That's right, only $5.99. This is a once-in-a-decade deal that you need to capitalize on now. Only $5.99, and we have found and preserved many other rare artifacts from the American Revolution. Come on and buy some rare artifacts now.
Welcome back. We will now continue with our American Revolution interviews. Next up, we talk to a reporter who lives in England. We begin by asking him what his view is of the American Revolution. What were your views as a reporter as the American Revolution developed?
When we first heard the news, I knew that a revolution meant trouble. But it was a huge boom in the journalism industry. It gave us a huge amount of information to write. I remember waiting and thinking each week for the news to cross the Atlantic and make it over here. The news we received would oftentimes be very graphic, but we, the average people, did not think that there was any possible way we could lose.
As a journalist, did you begin to understand that England was losing before the average population did?
Once the French began supporting the Americans, I do remember thinking that we may not win this. After all, we're still recovering from the expenses of the French and Indian War.
Well, thank you so much for talking with us. Next, we will meet a retired English general and find out his opinion on England's loss in the American Revolution. Do you feel as though the Americas deserved to win this revolution, and how did you come to this conclusion?
I don't believe that the Americans deserve to have won the American Revolution. They were just lucky to have gotten to use at one of our weakest moments.
What do you think had led England to be at one of its weakest moments when the Americas finally revolted?
We were still in financial debt from the French and Indian War. I believe if this war had not hindered our army, we would have easily been able to win the war.
Thank you so much for your time, and we're going back to you, Ian, and Sola.
Thank you, Chandler. Welcome back to the studio.
An honorable mention for significant battles of the war is the Battleton of Lexington and Concord.
Lexington and Concord was the first battle of the war and set the mood for most of the war. Anything you'd like to add, Sola?
Yes, the Americans won the Battle of Lexington and forced the British to retreat to Boston. And at the Battle of Concord, it proved that the Americans were not a pushover and demanded respect from Britain.
I'm Ian Woods with my co-anchor Sola out of BC. Thanks for watching The Daily Wagon.